Children of Men is one of the most visceral and immersive movies I've ever seen. The stunning fluidity of the camera movement complements the minimal use of cuts to successfully throw the audience into this mess of a world, which is 2027 London. For some unknown reason, women have lost the ability to give birth, spiraling the world into a complete state of chaos. England managed to stay somewhat on its feet, but since it's the only country in the world with a functioning government, there was a massive refugee and immigration problem. However, the British government depicted in Children of Men is extremely anti-immigration, totalitarian, and fascist. All illegal immigrants are tracked down and put in cages to be sent to refugee camps for deportation. Children of Men follows Theo, played by Clive Owen, as he narrowly escaped a terrorist bombing in a coffee shop. Shaken by the event, Theo visits his friend Jasper as they talk about the current state of events, setting up the dystopian setting for the audience. The next day, Theo is captured by the Fishes, led by his ex-wife Julian, played by Julianne Moore. They ask Theo to secure transit papers. He's able to do so because of his connections within the government. However, the papers state that Theo must accompany the refugees that the papers are meant for. On the way down to the south coast of England, Theo and his group are attacked by a mob who kills Julian in arguably the greatest and most complex one-shot scene in film history. The rest of the group escape the attack and drive to a safe house where the refugee, Key, reveals to Theo that she is pregnant.
Jesus Christ.
After the mob tracks down the safe house, Theo escapes with Key and Miriam, another member of the Fishes, where they take refuge at Jasper's house. Jasper arranges for Key to board a ship named Tomorrow from the Human Project. The Human Project is a supposed group of scientists committed to cure infertility. The plan is for Key to be slipped in the waters with the help of Jasper's friend Sid near an immigrant camp called Bexhill. Theo, Key, and Miriam leave when the Fishes find Jasper's house. Jasper stays behind with his wife and is then killed when he refuses to give up information. Theo drives them to an old school where they meet up with Sid and then travel to Bexhill. When they reach the camp, Key gives birth to a little girl, but they manage to keep it a secret for the night. The next morning, there is an uprising at the camp, and the Fishes are revolting against the National Guard. Sid finds out about the baby, and Theo escapes with Key as Sid tries to turn them in. However, Key is taken by the Fishes, and Theo is left for dead, but manages to escape the intense battle going on around him. He then finds Key later in an apartment building, bombarded by the National Guard, and takes her out. The most beautiful and sobering moment of the film is when everybody stops their fighting at the sight of Theo, Key, and the baby. However, this moment is broken up when an RPG comes and hits the building. Theo and Key then escape on a boat and row towards Tomorrow. Key goes on the boat, but Theo dies from a previous wound. The credits roll with children laughing in the background. In my opinion, Children of Men's main theme is hope. The first shot of the movie is inside a packed coffee shop, where everybody's eyes are glued to a screen breaking the news that the youngest person in the world had died. One person in the coffee shop doesn't care, and that's Theo. He just wants his coffee. He's hopeless for the future. We get a great sense of London as Theo walks and bus rides his way to work, where the camera focuses on him and gracefully pans to the immigration cages with thousands of people banging on the bars yelling for help and freedom. This great imagery sets the mood for the entire film. The future of the world is hopeless. This is the last generation before the human race falls to extinction. Theo begins his path towards caring again once he reunites with his ex-wife Julian. However, that doesn't last very long as she dies shortly after their reunion. But Theo is given another reason to care when the Key reveals to him that she is pregnant. Theo tries his hardest to keep her alive and get her to the Human Project. Another moment that stands out in the film, as I described earlier, is a sobering moment in the middle of the loud, chaotic, explosive battle when the soldiers all see the baby. That feeling of hope reverberates throughout everybody, but is then broken up by the RPG. The end of the film is left ambiguous for the audience to decide what will happen next. Does the Human Project even exist? There is no evidence throughout the entire movie that it was a real thing. If they do exist, can they be trusted? We hope it's true, but in a world filled with violence, revolution, discrimination, is it too good to be true? Throughout the movie, every hopeful moment was countered by a horrible moment. Theo reunites with Julian, who was then killed. Key shows Theo she is pregnant, but then the safe house is overrun. Jasper helps Theo, Key, and Miriam survive and is then killed. Everybody stops to marvel at the baby during the battle, then the RPG hits. Theo successfully takes Key to the ship, but then dies. Is there any hope for the future, or is the world just destined to crash and burn? Aside from the stunning cinematography achieved by my personal favorite cinematographer, Emmanuel Lubezki, along with a wonderful screenplay and characters written and directed by Alfonso Cuaron, there is a deeper study of humans and the running theme of hope that is masterfully explored in Children of Men. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.